So let's just feel in our hearts this moment of connection, this moment of oneness, this moment of feeling just really aligned with the divine, to feel that we are here to receive and to fulfill a higher awareness and a healing within ourselves this night. And we are grateful, grateful, grateful for the realization of our wholeness that is possible for us as we heal our trauma, to know that we are here, one with spirit, one with that divine source, and we feel the power of our Christ consciousness here, guiding, nurturing, fulfilling, and lifting each one of us. And we send forth a beautiful energy of light to one another. We fill this room, we fill this space that is between us and everywhere present, that we may all know and feel the power of this divine now, and feel the power of that divine healing presence within us. Just take a moment to touch into that place where you feel the healing presence of the divine within you, that knows every need, every fear, every scar, every experience that you've encountered. That also is that which is representative, and it is the truth of your being. And it knows exactly what it is that is yours to express as the divine light that you are. And so we allow that divine light to move through us and assist in our healing process as we understand these traumas and the ways that we find our healing. And we are grateful, grateful, grateful. We give extra love to Ptsd on is it his or her? Her next journey, Ptsid's next journey. So she is so full of light and playfulness, like a kitten all over again. And we feel the wonder and joy of her unconditional love that she shared throughout her life here, and give thanks for that. And we are grateful for the lives of our loved ones, our animals, all of those that bring us joy and love and peace in our hearts. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. Ah, yes. Okay, somebody's in the waiting room. All right. Dominican, Maryland. Okay. I'm learning how to do this, y'all, as we go. So stumble on. We'll stumble along, learning all these different processes. But so grateful you're all here. And what we wanted to do to just touch base for just a moment is to just review a couple of points from last time. So we're kind of all on the same page as we go into the next level. Is there anyone that did not have that is here that didn't have the handouts from last week? And it's Sylvia.
I don't have to.
You need
I
it?
left mine at home.
You left yours at home? Good.
Oh, I left mine at home.
Okay, I've got two. You guys can kind of share.
You can share.
Okay. And we'll have it up on the slides in just a minute too. So I just wanted to make sure that if you needed one and didn't have it, that you could have that. And then we'll go ahead and get started. And welcome back, Amber. We're so glad to have Amber here from Iowa, from Des Moines, and with her wisdom and grace in bringing this message together, and we're grateful for that. And what we want to do right now also is we're going to bring in, let's see, I'm going to bring in the PowerPoint. So those of you on here, we may not see you.
Can
Amber,
I?
Yes.
Since I'm remote, if everybody can, oh, you moved. Anybody that's online, if you can mute until you have a question, it'll be a lot easier for me to hear you because it's kind of echoey. Tonight, I'm coming to you from my house, which means I have two cats who may try to make an appearance. I have prepared the squirt bottle in case they do.
Oh.
I know, poor little cats. They're all right. They'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
See it now, so that's good.
Okay, so we are in part 2 of healing our trauma, and we're going to then kind of review a little bit, and then we'll get to the point where we ask some questions. Well, I took off the intros of us because you know us by now, and we're grateful to be here with you. And you know that Amber's my niece, and I'm very proud of her and excited because she's my teacher, you know, in life, you know how that goes? Oh, there we go. That she is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she specializes in trauma. She does EMDR. She does many different things, and obviously is you're getting to know her through this. So we are going to go back and look at the definition of trauma and Amber's Bumblebee example, because I think that was so especially powerful. If anybody didn't hear it, and we want to just touch on that a moment. So Amber, take it away a moment.
Okay. Is there anybody here who was not at the first class?
One person.
Okay. So let's see. So the Bumblebee example is the idea that two people can be looking at the same bee landing on a pretty flower. And while one person might just go into awe and wonder at the beauty of nature and watching that bumblebee drink, they will get serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin, and their inflammation goes down in their body. It's a very relaxed state that set of chemicals creates. And another person can be watching the same bumblebee in the same moment on the same flower. And if they perhaps have an allergy, they might go, oh my gosh, I can't get stung. My throat's gonna close up, I might die. And they get pumped full of cortisol and adrenaline, and inflammation goes up in the body and blood starts flowing to their extremities. And so the intention with that imagery is that we can be having the exact same experience in the exact same moment, but our thoughts around that experience then create feelings, which then create a chemical response in our body. So what's occurring to each person is very unique to them. And the idea that our thoughts create reality is based in science in the way that our body responds to the emotions that we feel, which is part of the fight or flight, freeze and fawn. Sorry, I'm distracted a little bit by the moving background, Kira.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
Okay.
If they're not coming out, I'm not doing it right. So,
Oh, shoot. I can
Okay.
see it on my screen. Is it not showing up there?
Kira, you fixed it. Kira, you had fixed it. So
Okay.
if you swap the presentation mode, you're good now. Just put it back in slide and you're good.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to get it where we could see you, Amber, and see
Oh,
doing something weird. So
You got to go back to where you hit display settings and then hit swap where that
Okay.
cat is.
wait, I don't know where that was. Okay.
Yeah, put it back. I'm sorry, Amber.
oh no, I'm glad you're here. I don't know the answer, so.
Display settings, swap, yeah.
Okay.
Now
Is
it's
that okay? It's not up here. We're not seeing it. We're seeing a different display. So anyway, it's working on devices.
Well, it did go over the next animation for just a minute.
Yeah, it's going to the next slide, but it's showing me instead of the slideshow, it's also showing me. Okay, so let me go up here to slideshow and do it this way instead. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not very good at this. Obviously.
I'm not either, so I'm no help when it comes to technology.
Well, it's giving me this thing where it's showing me the preview rather than the regular full screen. And I was trying to get it to show me. I'm going to start it over and see if I can redo this. All right, well, we're going to go on. I don't want to keep interrupting this. What I think is most important is you guys have handouts on here, and we will pull it up as we need to for those of you that don't. We don't need that. We need a full page.
As long as I can see the slides, I can speak to what image we're looking at.
Okay.
Can't you see them?
Yeah, but can you see them?
I could. Now I'm seeing, I think, your desktop.
Yeah, which is what I'm trying to shift all that. Well, I don't know why I did it last week and I haven't figured it out
I could see it a minute ago. It was there. Yeah.
I don't know why this is like.
Okay, put her up in the corner. and then
I'm gonna
you
stop
go to
sharing for a
slide.
moment. All right, and I'm gonna close out participants and, no, I don't want to end the meeting,
No, you just wanna,
this one.
Just find him on the desktop and open it.
All right, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go, speaker view so that you can see Amber. All right, let's start there, and then I'm gonna try. Okay, sorry, Amber.
Oh, that's
So-
okay.
Go back and you were finishing up about the bumblebee and the chemical responses of mind, body, and emotions, right?
Okay. Yeah. I can't see anyone now. Is that, you want me to just talk through that?
Oh,
Oh, wait, there you are. I got it. Okay. So are you just going to let me know when you want to go to the next?
yeah, I don't have the slides up at all right now. So
Yeah.
okay, so minimize that.
minimize this.
No, not minimize it, just make it smaller.
Just make it smaller, right
Yeah, there
there.
you go. Now put the slideshow up next to it
Okay,
and make that smaller.
okay, so I can,
Just make it.
Make it smaller, just go up to the little boxes next to the X,
Yes.
okay.
that one. Okay, now. move that
Now we
over,
got it.
And then move that over there.
Okay, I think we're getting it.
There you go.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Now, I don't
Sorry,
know if
everybody.
they-
I had
You
it.
can't see it though.
I don't know.
Yeah,
You
we
have to share your screen for us to see the slides.
I will share screen now. So that's
Let's see
the
what
other
happens. Yeah, let's see what happens.
part.
You know, today has been one of those days. It has been an interesting day today. I'm kind of not surprised this is happening.
That's because it's Wacky Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay. that-
Okay, perfect. We can work with that.
Excellent, excellent.
You can.
Now you can make that screen bigger
Okay,
or just do a speaker view and then she'll only show up or you'll only show up.
okay,
You're good.
Whoever's speaking will show up. Yeah, whoever.
okay, there we
you
go. We got it. All right, sorry about that, everybody.
Okay, and the slides on that side, yeah. So you just have to click on the one that, on this.
We're just gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
That'll work.
That'll work.
Yeah.
So now
So-
we're gonna. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. But then I have to figure out how. to
They're
make
on the
it-
side.
Yeah, I know.
Or you just have to click to the ones that you want. That's the frame.
Yeah.
Oh, technology.
Even the number 4 there per se.
Yeah, there's the
That's number
bumblebee.
4, number
Yeah,
5.
that's good. Can you just leave it like that?
Yeah.
And then people can look at the.
There's gotta be a way.
There's another way to do this, but anyway, at this moment, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, but she needs to see the.
Okay.
I think it can go this way. There we go. Can y'all see it this way?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But we don't see her.
We'll
You don't see Amber now?
No.
Ah,
Where is Amber? Is she
Right here.
Go back to the way it was and then.
She's got to speak for you to see her. You got it on speaker view, so Amber has to talk. to
Oh,
be able
yeah,
see
go to
her.
gallery maybe.
yeah, that's not the problem. It's that when I put up the screen, then it did a,
Go back to where you were, where you had both
Okay.
side by side.
here, okay, I'm gonna go
Okay.
back to here.
Now. Yeah, just move that. Expand. Yeah, there you go. Now make this a little smaller. Speaker view and then only the person. And then you can move her wherever you want.
Okay,
And that way,
I
it's
think we got it. Thank you, we're going with this.
a little jerry rigging, but that'll work for you.
All right, I apologize, everybody. Technology, I'll learn and get better at this as we go. This is new to do the PowerPoint at the same time we're doing the hybrid class.
Yeah.
I've been fine with it without the PowerPoint, but this is new, so. All right, Amber, take it away again, thank you.
Okay.
Patience, everybody.
Well, so the basic premise that we're getting at with the Bumblebee example is that your thoughts then affect your emotions, which affect the chemical response in your body, which creates an overall mind-body experience. So it speaks to the power of our thoughts and our feelings to physically affect our body. And I think the next one is a review of the bell curve that we talked about last time. In a couple more slides, we will show a picture of the vagus nerve. I think someone asked last time if we were going to touch on dorsal vagal and ventral vagal. What they're showing in this particular picture is parasympathetic on the top and bottom, dorsal and ventral, and then sympathetic is in the middle. So if you remember last week, we talked about fight or flight is actually on the way up, and the freeze response is when your body starts creating another set of chemicals to try and help you come back down from being in fight or flight. But all of that at once creates we had a slide last time and I think they called it hormone soup. It is in a flood of different types of chemical responses happening all at once in your body. And I believe all of that is listed on the side, so you can look that up or read more about it if you would like. But essentially, our vagus nerve is the only nerve in the body that goes completely from top to bottom. Thank you, Kira. Yeah, and so this picture, I'm not going to go through all of the pieces that it's connected to. You can read that later if you'd like, but I just wanted to give you a visual of the way that that nerve system is connected to all of our major organs. It is the reason that things like oming and chanting and deep guttural sounds during childbirth, for instance, help, because when you make that noise up here, everything opens throughout your body. So that's important because it's a big piece of the way that we're all interconnected and all of our organs and vital organs talk to each other. It's not just your brain. And so in trying to help yourself come back down from a reactive state, there are ways that we can use the vagus nerve to kind of hijack, for a lack of a better word, our sympathetic nervous system and hit the brakes with the parasympathetic without going too far in either direction. And last week we talked a little bit about the importance of breath. And you can see how it's so connected to your lungs and your gut. And to review, the sympathetic nervous system is like putting your foot on the gas, and everything starts amping up so that you can either fight off what is the perceived threat or run away from it. So blood flow goes to the extremities, you start pumping out adrenaline and cortisol. You usually kind of shift into shallow, rapid breathing, all connected via the vagus nerve. And that goes up to the back of your spine, so it's connected to your brain. And then parasympathetic is like the gas or the brake pedal, where everything starts to slow down. The top of that bell curve is when you still have cortisol and adrenaline, but you now are also making, I can't remember which ones exactly off the top of my head, which particular, it's not oxytocin, I'm forgetting the name of the particular hormones, but you're making the hormones to slow down at the same time. And so what happens for a lot of people is they just sort of freeze up in their body, and that's the kind of bunny hiding in the bush, or deer in the headlights, pick your analogy. Yeah, fetal position. I had a client last week that just couldn't move for several hours. She had a panic attack, that would be fight or flight, and then reached the top of that peak and just couldn't move. And so the importance of learning what that is so that you don't get so scared when that happens, and you can kind of talk yourself through, okay, I think I'm in freeze right now. I feel like I can't move. I just want to get small. I want to hide. I want to feel safe and protected. So that's what's happening. And I know that that will pass as my nervous system starts to calm down. So it becomes very important to educate people on what these responses look like in their body so that you can identify that and you know that there isn't actually anything to worry about. Your body is just trying to protect you. Did you want to go to the slide with freeze and in
You want
between?
to?
These are just they should be in the handout, but the freeze response and fawning response. And we talked about last week that fawning isn't necessarily something that happens in the moment in the way that fight, flight, and freeze do. Fawning is our connection to trying to read the room and the situation, maybe with people-pleasing behaviors, maybe having a hard time saying no or setting boundaries or being disconnected from your body, all the things that you might do to fawn over someone or a situation to make it better. And generally, both freeze and fawn come from childhood or earlier in life trauma, from an experience or many experiences over a period of time where you don't have the ability to flee or to fight. So, you know, that can be in adulthood if you are stuck somewhere, for instance, and you can't leave. You might go into a freeze response or try and use fawn behaviors in order to help de-escalate the situation. So that's just a review of those two. If you have any questions about that or fight or flight, I'm happy to go back and say more about that if anyone has
Any questions
anything.
about that part? I think we had a pretty clear.
Yeah, I just wanted that, the word you were looking for was endorphins. That's what you had on the,
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yes. And I feel like I should know the exact chemical name. That I think endorphins encompasses several things, but yes, you're correct. Yeah, it's and what I mean, those types of details really don't matter on a day-to-day basis as far as like a scientific understanding. I think what matters is that you know that they're different types, that you're getting flooded with one type when you're in fight or flight on the way up, and then your body starts producing another type to try and bring you back down, which eventually it does. But in between, you're just flooded with a whole lot of stuff happening at the same time.
Right. I thought I heard someone else with the question.
Donna Marie, yeah.
I do. Okay. Fawning. Is there ever a time when fawning is a proper response?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yes. Most, if not all, quote, negative coping skills are developed because they were necessary at some point in our life. So like being a child and fawning, to use that word, over your mother to make her laugh and make her smile. So maybe she won't be so depressed. So maybe she won't yell at you later, you know, or throw you down the stairs or what, you know, whatever horrible thing is happening. It develops because it keeps us safe. So as adults, we want to recognize when we're fawning in times that aren't appropriate. So that's a really, really good question, because that gets into codependency and giving your power away, when it is or isn't an appropriate time to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
So
answer? Yeah.
well, kind of. When would fawning be? You know, it's funny because when I saw this last week, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, I have to read a whole bunch of books on that. Okay. And then my thought after I read it, I thought, I don't know, for some reason, all these years, I thought those were personality traits. So now I'm realizing, you know, I do a lot of that, but not with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't limit me when I do that. You know, when I do that, then I act accordingly, so to speak. But
Mhm.
how would you know when fawning is actually detrimental to you? You know me,
Yeah.
how would I know that?
30.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. I didn't know if Kira, were you wanting to jump in or? Okay. Yes, it does make sense. And I'll come to that in just a second, but I want to say first that thought patterns and behaviors become habitual because you have an autonomic nervous system that's trying to help you. So at a certain level, you can't even help it after a while, and it could be considered a character trait from that perspective, that neurons that fire together wire together,
Okay,
and you just
okay.
have to change, the more you're aware of it. That's why bringing it to your awareness is so important, because when you're aware of it, then instead of it being up back here like something that's pulling the reins and steering you and you don't even know why you reacted that way, you see it, you
Okay.
go, oh, that was a fawning behavior. Then I think you can check in with yourself and say, was that necessary? Was it helpful? Am I honoring my own boundaries when I do that? Am I honoring my personal space and power? Am I giving my power away to make the other person happy?
So it's when you give your power away, that's when you're using it. I don't want to say negatively, but I can't think of the right way to say it. So when you give your power away is when it's detrimental to you.
Yes.
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I think oh, sorry, Kira.
Let me just add that, I think that, like you said, it's such an automatic thing at some point that we may not realize, and it actually can make other people uncomfortable because we're over fawning. We're making it, so the difference is there's a difference between being respectful and thoughtful and caring about another and trying to do that versus, oh, I've got to do this because otherwise I'm not safe. I've got to make it okay. And it's like, there's a difference of what I'm experiencing inside myself in the midst of that. Am I experiencing myself as fawning because that's a lovely way to support and be with someone, or is it I'm in such a place because I'm in an inner panic, or there's an inner part of me that doesn't feel secure or doesn't feel aligned with my true essence, or and I feel disempowered in that moment. Even in the fawning, I'm disempowered versus being in my empowerment. So that would be a difference. How I would describe a part of that anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
there's a hand up in here too. Go ahead, Amber, and then we have a hand up in the room.
Okay, I was just going to say that I think that noticing when you feel anxiety, and if you are acting out of anxiety or trying to fix, like Kira was getting at, that was speaking to, and so being in your body can be very helpful. And one PTSD symptom that a lot of people don't know is a PTSD symptom is oversharing. And that would be considered fawning. That would be in that category. To overshare, always feel like you have to explain yourself, and maybe giving more information than is really necessary. Well,
Laughter over that one.
oh, I can't see the room. Sorry, guys, I can't see you. I can see people online, but yeah.
There's a lot of laughter, nodding of heads. All right, we have another question or comment over here.
Yeah, hi,
Okay.
Amber.
Hi.
I understand you've been talking about fawning response as sort of a ad hoc from time to time. Is it possible to be in fawning response as a way of life, like day after day, week after week, year after year? Be a lifestyle. Is that a possibility?
Yes, and that kind of speaks to what I was trying to explain about how those behaviors get hardwired because of the way that your brain, it does anything that you do on repeat, it will automate. And so if I scratch my eye a bunch every single day, before you know it, I will be scratching my eye without thinking about it. It'll just happen because your brain goes, oh, let me be helpful. Here you go. You're going to do that without thinking now. That could autonomic nervous system. And so that way of thinking or responding even without thinking can become habitual, which then becomes kind of more like the character trait that she was talking about. Now, in therapy, when it gets past a certain point in the ways that we've been describing, where it's less about you and what's good for you and more about other people and it's other oriented, that's where we would start talking about codependent behavior. And what that looks like, and people pleasing, so that you sort of smooth things over so that you can feel good in your nervous system. If you notice that you can't feel good in your own nervous system, in your own body, without everyone around you feeling good, you're probably fawning. But that doesn't mean that you can't change that. So even if you come to see that it has become a way of life, that's okay. The more that you notice it, the more you can make different choices. And just surely by the act of noticing it and doing something different, that will become automated. And so I'm hesitant to say that it's like a personality trait, because it is and it isn't. It is changeable. It's fluid in that way.
An example of that, I can talk about like at a point in my life where I realized that every other word probably was, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry. Like I was sorry for my own existence, right?
Yeah.
And at some level, I was insecure. It was my way of making it okay, because I wanted to make sure you were okay for me before I could be okay. And so, and it's like that's an example of that behavior of how it might show up. And then I realized that what I was doing, and that had to come to the place of starting to notice and change it. Stop myself from that and recognize that's not necessary in this situation, and how it had become habituated in me. But seeing it is part of the power. It's like you bring awareness to it. What we understand in a consciousness level is that also the minute you bring awareness to something, you transform it by seeing it, and then you have the ability to be at choice and change the pattern. And so the minute I actually see it and bring my awareness to it, now I can be a choice. At first, I'm probably just going to be doing it and then catching myself after the fact. Oh, there I went again. Oh, there I went again. But eventually I catch myself in the middle of, and then eventually we get to where we stop the behavior before we ever got there, and then that becomes automated in us also. So those are the kind of how we shift those patterns. So we're bringing a conscious awareness by our attention to that behavior and recognizing it's not exactly helpful for me to be that way. I've had people that they were frustrated because I was saying, I'm sorry all the time. And it was frustrating for them. They're like, what are you sorry about? Quit it, or they were frustrated with my thank you all the time. And it was like, that's just too much. Will you stop already? And I realized that was a fawning. I really didn't understand fawning behavior until Amber taught me when we were preparing this class. And I went, I so get that I've done that my whole life. How many patterns I have of that, and how many times I've stopped and changed. And so I do want to say we can shift that powerfully in our bringing our awareness to it. And that's what we as conscious beings are up to, are bringing our awareness to these patterns so that we can find the healing in ourselves, call on the divine to move that pattern out of the way. And I think that we actually can heal sometimes much quicker because we are working with our consciousness and calling on our Christ awareness, our divine awareness to support the process as well. So we recognize that we have a greater help in it, and it helps us in the healing journey as well. Yeah, excellent. Should we?
Well, can I say one other thing? When we talked about affirmations last time, this is a perfect example of how they can be useful in day-to-day life. Most fawning behaviors come from a feeling of needing to be smaller and to make yourself shrink in order for everyone else to feel okay. That's where apologizing all the time comes from. Oh, sorry. Oh, I shouldn't take up space. I'm so sorry. I probably shouldn't be talking about that, right? Like, so reminding yourself with affirmations, it's okay for me to take up space. It's okay for me to have opinions. It's okay if other people don't share my opinions. And one of my personal favorites that I use all the time for years is what other people think of me is none of my business. It's okay. It's none of my business. What I'm going to do is project out as much love and authenticity as I can, and I will show up as I am. And then if someone doesn't want that in their energy field or in their space, that's okay. We don't have to be together. We can smile at each other from across the room or work on something separately or whatever it is. So I think that we talked about last time, but I don't remember if we talked about expanding versus contracting. You know, that when you're fawning, you're generally kind of making yourself smaller. If you can start to notice what your baseline is when you, and this is a Paul Selig technique here. I don't know if we speak to that, but knowing with a capital K, going into your personal knowing. So I know that I have 3 kids and their names are Delphi, Atticus, and Finn. I can close my eyes and I can feel, okay, what does it feel like to know what I know with a capital K unequivocally? I have 3 kids, their names are Delphi, Atticus, and Finn. How does that feel in my body? And that's my baseline. And so the more you practice that, the more you're going to notice when you're out of that area, when you're shrinking yourself, or when you feel expansive, when you feel like, man, I am amazing today and I want to go tell everyone how much I love them and I can't wait to get out in the world. That might be expansive. If you're feeling nervous or worried all the time or wondering what that person's thinking or how they're feeling, that would probably be getting smaller.
So I'm moving us to the window of tolerance so that we can move on to some of our practices we want to do tonight too.
Yeah.
Another question out here first.
Well, I was thinking you have the freeze response and the fawn response. I don't see why you can't be in the freeze response where you're frozen, you have the sense of dread, but you're still thinking enough to think, I need to say no. I need to sit down. And so I'm thinking is that in both of those situations, if you can have an affirmation, if you can have something you can hold on to, you can pull yourself out of it a little bit. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And so neurologically, sometimes that's true for people, but a lot of the time their frontal lobe has shut down. If you remember, the frontal lobe and the hypothalamus that are our logic and judgment and time and space. And so when someone goes into a panic attack, they're just all amygdala, they're all emotion, and everything is happening automatically without their logical permission. And as that starts to come back down, that's when you'll start to notice that you can think through, okay, maybe they're not mad at me. Maybe I just didn't, maybe it was this, or maybe I could have been gentler, whatever, those would be logical thoughts. And so your frontal lobe is coming back online. It's part of the reason that EMDR works so well, because we're using eye movement in order to get those 2 parts of the brain talking to each other. So I think that is helpful to people so that they don't beat themselves up if they can't. In that, if they look back and they go, oh, I froze and I couldn't say anything, and I wish I would have said this, and I wish I could have told myself that affirmation and calm down, but all I could do is go hide in a closet.
Yeah. And in that moment, that is, but then as you come down, then you can take the responsibility to shift it. And that's the point where we feel like we have the empowerment then to start calling it in and moving it. Now, in the midst of that, you can, if you can get there and get it a habit of going, all right, I need to call on my divine, I need to call on the knowing in me, I need to call on that. If you can turn to something else to help you in the midst of that panic moment, in that moment, but it's almost like you have to break that pattern within yourself and start to call on something higher, some awareness within you into that situation. And what happens is you may then have inroads to make that happen at a quicker basis, like quicker than you did before. You could break that down faster than you could. At first, you may have stayed longer in the freeze, right? Or in that flight and the freeze, or whatever it might be, or fight. And then, and you can come down faster because you're now using your ability to connect to something greater within yourself, your own knowing. You remember, oh, wait, I'm going to call on my knowing in this moment. And then, I can, and we're going to give you some techniques to talk about in just a minute too. Let's go into the window of tolerance just a moment so we can cover that since it's in your packet.
Yeah.
Amber, what's that?
Yeah, so your window of tolerance is what your nervous system can handle at any given moment. And when you have PTSD or have experienced trauma, you tend to have a much smaller window. If you remember that flashlight example where it's like the spotlight is just shining here and that's all you can see. As you start to use the healthy coping skills like affirmations or talking yourself through what the logical thought process, challenging those negative thoughts, you're widening your window of tolerance. Your perspective gets broader. And so one of the things that we do in therapy when we're working on trauma is trying to slowly help people make that a little bit bigger, just a little bit out of your comfort zone. You might call it a growth edge. Like when I started doing these classes with Kira, it was a growth edge. I'm not a public speaker like she is. I love working one-on-one. So, so that was a growth edge. So okay, this is a funny story. The first time that I did a class for Kira, I woke up in the morning covered in hives. My body was like, nope. That doesn't feel good. We're super anxious and now you're splotchy. And I was like, oh, thanks. Okay, more makeup. But that was outside my window of tolerance. And doing it as a practice has broadened that window. So my nervous system now understands with practice that it's okay. We're not going to die. People won't actually boo and hiss at you or throw rocks because you're on the other side of a computer. So it's fine. No more splotchiness. Does that make sense about window of tolerance? Everybody kind of get that?
Great example.
Yeah.
We wanted to go and spend the rest of our time really tonight about what we can do. And we talked about positive self-talk, and this goes into what Unity teaches, that we teach denials and affirmations and as ways of doing this. And I also want to talk about our higher self and our trust in something, that there is that in us that is bigger than our situation, our problem, our challenge that we're facing. And that when we open ourselves to that realization, I don't have a slide for higher self and trust, but it's just saying that we want to acknowledge that there is something greater than me that does know how to handle this, that can take me through this. And as I start in that process and begin to remember and recognize that I do have something greater working with me, my greater self, my higher self, then I can begin to trust that I'm going to come through this and start to trust that it can happen faster, or I can more quickly, start to expand that window of tolerance, start to open up to having the ability to change the situation. So I just wanted to, because I feel like it's so important in a spiritual perspective that we are calling on more than just our emotions, our mind, our body, but we're also engaging our spirit in the process. And that's where healing can happen. Actually, I've watched with people that have a strong spiritual sense, the healing can happen much faster for them because they do have a faith, they have a trust, they have something that they are aware is supporting them in this process. So it is an important piece to recognize and call on in the journey as well. And I just wanted to touch on that. And then we talked last week, we started to talk about affirmations as a process of creating an affirmation. And I want to touch on in Unity, we teach the power of both a denial and an affirmation. And a denial is where you are denying something to have power over you. I'm denying this to have power. It's not saying I'm denying this situation. I'm denying it to decide who and what I am, because I am more than this situation. I'm more than my experience. I'm more than my feelings. I am a Christ being or a divine being or a light of the world, whatever it might be. So I can deny that this has the power to determine who and what and how I am. Right, so that I will start with a denial because it clears out the places where I'm feeling powerless, for example. If I'm feeling powerless, then I want to deny that to have the power to decide for me. And then I claim an affirmation of what it is that I want to affirm about myself in that moment. And we have some examples, of course, in here, but also that's something we can each make affirmations. Like, you want to talk about that a minute and invite them into that, Amber?
Sure. Well, you're doing a beautiful job, Kira. I feel like you touched on most of the things that I would say. When you're coming out of or healing from past traumatic experiences, that feeling of safety comes largely from knowing that you can trust yourself and that you can trust that you're guided and protected. And so we want the words that we say to ourselves and about ourselves to be empowering, to be loving, to speak to ourselves the way that we would speak to a child, a family member, with compassion, with love, with empathy, rather than criticism or put downs. I mean, we're very mean to ourselves a lot of the time when we start to notice the way that we speak. So you can create your own affirmation, and I would encourage that when you think about something that bothers you right now, the first thing that comes to your mind, what is the broad, if you were to put that into broad terms, what would that look like or sound like? So like if I were worried a lot of the time, I can create an affirmation around anxiety. Like, it's okay for me to make decisions. I understand that change is constant and I know how to pivot. You can make up whatever you want that fits for you. If you've been feeling really abandoned or hurt, you might make it something like, I don't abandon myself. I know that I love me. I am worthy of God's love. There's no right or wrong when it comes to affirmations, as long as it is something that's positive about yourself. You can really word it any way you want. And one of the things that I used for years early on, coming from a family that was more glass half empty than full, I didn't know what that sounded like to try and think more positively. So I used card decks, like the Louise Hay card decks. I still have those at home. And I would put them on my dashboard or write them on sticky notes. One of my favorites actually currently is just, I believe in miracles. When things are not going well, it's a way of reminding myself, okay, this is bigger than me. Maybe this circumstance is happening, but I believe in miracles. Here you go, surrender. I believe in miracles. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be anything that you have to memorize, or we don't want it to be something that you worry about. We want it to feel affirming and empowering.
Yeah, it can be as simple as, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've got this. I know I've got this. I know I'll be okay. It can be whatever, something along those lines. It's very simple and quick to replace the other thought. So you can quickly replace whatever negative thought is coming up. I want something that's quick to put in there. I don't have to think about a long affirmation I created. What was it I was going to say? It's like, then all of a sudden I'm stressed out over that. And so instead to be able to say, yeah, no, I've got this. I trust me. I trust the divine in me. It can be something simple like that. Or, Abraham Hicks teaches that everything's always working out for me. Everything's always working out for me. So even though it doesn't look like it right now, everything's always working out for me. And if you can find something that resonates for you and make that your go-to, it becomes, again, you're replacing an old habit pattern with a new habit and something that works. So I wanted to suggest that we take a minute and you just think for a minute and write an affirmation for yourself. what would you turn to at this point in your journey? Because I want you to take away something that you're actually gonna use for you. What would be a go-to for you? And just take a minute and do that.
Kira, I'm wondering if this would be a good time to do the triple burner. And since we're talking about,
Go ahead. Let's go ahead and do it right now.
okay.
Yeah, you're all gonna get up and Zumba, that's it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make you sweat, I promise. Later on, we're gonna have a slide about meridians, but so this is like, we're in this topic right now. So I want to do it now rather than later while we're talking about affirming and denying. The meridian line that we're using for this simple technique is often called the triple burner, the triple heater. It goes up your arm and around your ear. And we'll come back to meridians in a little bit, but I just want to demonstrate what that might look like to say a positive on one side and a negative on the other. So the idea is that you tap around your ear like this, saying the positive on the left and the negative on the right. So you can just tap along with me, and we might say, I can keep myself safe. It's very general. I can keep myself safe. I can keep myself safe. I can keep myself safe. And then we might come over here and we're going to add a negative, but it's still positive. It's a positive message overall. It's a denial. So I do not need to be in fear. I do not need to be in fear. I do not need to be in fear. And you can keep doing that. You can go side to side for a few minutes if you want to. And again, this is experiential in how you feel it in your body. And so if you start to feel yourself calming back down, and those words are kind of helping to soothe. And what we're doing, what we're doing with meridian lines is we're tapping where you would normally put acupressure or acupuncture, you know, where they might put needles that relate to different parts of your body. We're doing that with our hand.
So say which side is which one's the negative and which one's the
Positive on the left.
Oh, the positive.
I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, right?
Yep. And I just made up kind of a general example. So you can, so I am safe would be an example of a positive. And then on the other side, you add a denial, but you still want it to be a positive message overall. So I do not need fear. I do not need to be in fear. I had to look at what I wrote down. I do not need to be in fear. So let me think of another example. Let's see. A worry happens a lot for people, right? So if we use something like everything's always working out for me, things are always working out for me, things are always working out for me. I do not need to worry that things will go badly. I do not need to worry that things will go badly. You see what I mean? How easy it is to kind of, you just need to think of what it is that you're wanting to work through. Or
you have another question or comment out here?
Does it really need to be the right ear versus the left ear?
You know, that's a good question. That's just how I was taught, but I haven't researched that. The meridian line is on both sides, and I'm not sure.
So you had said left is for the affirmation and the right is for the denial.
Mhm.
What she
Okay,
said, yeah.
so I was watching her and I was doing it the opposite way.
But she's the
I
opposite.
understand that.
So
I
left
just-
is the heart, right? Just say on the
Yeah,
heart
left
side
is the
left.
heart line, yeah. Well, let's look, should we look at the meridian lines and see if it comes up there at all?
So
You
left
should
side,
be able to see the triple burner. I think on the one that we chose, it had that off to the side. I think it's one of the last slides, Kira. There we go. Yeah,
The next-
they call it the triple heater on, this one says triple warmer. It's in green. Up the arm, but they're only showing it on one side of the body. They're just for the sake of not having to be so clustered in that picture. They're showing it on, to me, looks like the right side. It's a green line that goes up the arm and kind of up the back of the head, and you can see it has a line to the ear.
oh,
And then Kira, do you want to go to the next, go back one slide and we'll find it on that one too. Because it's called something slightly different. Triple warmer on that one. Here it's called triple heater, and they're showing it in kind of an orange, that orange line that goes up the arm. And this one, they are showing it on both sides, but goes up the arm and right behind the ear. Now, I am not a massage therapist or an acupressurist or acupuncturist or any of those things. So I don't know that in detail like someone that does that for a living would. This is something I was taught by someone who does that and have just tried to share with people because it's a quick, easy technique.
Yeah, put your denials and affirmations into your physical and shift your consciousness around. Okay, we're gonna go back. We were up here at this, and then we were gonna go to
Breath work.
breathing. Let's do a moment of breath work. One of the things we wanted to do tonight was actually take you through some of these things, like the triple burner, like another example. We did a moment of breath work last time, but we want to take you through another breath work example. Some of the slides that we had from last week, I didn't repeat. So you may have them in last week's handouts rather than this week's. But this one, Amber, go ahead, and we wanted to just take us through a breath process to say, how do you then, there's one that's called the 2-7-8 breathing. Last week we did box breathing.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd take us through the 2-7-8 this time to learn another method of breathing to shift yourself when you're coming down from that freeze and able to start moving some things in your body. Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to try to, it's hard because the screen's so little. If you remember what I was saying last time, you want to start in your belly. You want to feel it expand here first and then up. So we're going to breathe in slowly, filling and expanding our belly up to our chest for a count of 2. Okay, so 1, 2, and then hold for 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out slowly for 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to do it again?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to breathe in slowly for 2. 1, 2, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one of the things that you'll learn as you do more breath practice is that it's hard sometimes to fully take a deep breath if you're not expressing it all out. So you want to go and fill up all the way and then hold and then really let it out as you're going slowly out.
One of the things we work with the kids with is it's like filling a balloon. So when you are in the process of breathing up, you're filling your stomach like filling a balloon. and you feel your stomach expand and your chest expand, your whole body expands like a balloon. And then you hold, and then, you know, it goes in and your belly goes towards the back of your spine when you exhale. And that's kind of, we haven't all been taught the actual way to breathe appropriately. And that is the best way to actually calm the nervous system and get control of your breath. So that's a very powerful thing to do.
What we're doing is telling your amygdala that you're no longer being chased by a bear, that it's okay. Your body goes, oh, well, we must not be under threat because we're not running. So I guess it's okay now. and
Breathe.
and just simply by breathing, that's why it's slow. In both the box breath and 2-7-8 are intentionally slow. So you're either breathing in very slowly and out very slowly at a rhythmic pace with box breathing. So you're doing 4 or 5 in, 4 or 5 out. And with 2-7-8, you're fully inhaling and then holding for a long time and breathing out for a long time so that you're slowing down your breathing.
I don't know why this moves, sorry. All right, well, that's powerful. Any questions on the breath work side of it? Affirmation side of it? Okay, we're gonna go into some other exercises. What was next? Where are we? I'll find where I am here.
Tapping, probably. Yeah, meridians and tapping.
Yeah, let's do some tapping next as another thing
Okay.
to teach you all.
So-
Yeah.
What, Kira? I'm sorry.
Speaker view, it's that second to last.
This one?
No, the next one over. That one should be speaker view.
Oh, okay, good. Then I can just,
Then you can expand them.
yay, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, thank you. All right, so we have the tapping point. So you
Okay,
wanna
so
talk-
everybody can see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so tapping points, what I'm going to show you is called the emotional freedom technique, or EFT for short. And I want you to make note of this if you have something to write with. In YouTube, you can put in EFT tapping for, and it will auto-populate everything that you can think of under the sun: inner child wounds, abandonment, narcissism, you know, you name it. It exists for free, and it's easy, and it is non-invasive. And so all you do, you know, normally in sessions, I would be speaking to whatever it is that that person is dealing with. So one of the beautiful things about EFT is you can change it in whatever way works for you. So the things that you can look up online, we would call them scripts, which is what I'm going to go through tonight. It's just like a pre-made script that is more general because we're in a group. But as you're tapping along with me, feel free to change whatever wording doesn't fit to something that does. Because all we're doing is stimulating those points like they would in Chinese medicine, but we're doing it with our hand instead of using a needle or hot stones or whatever the case may be. So the tapping points, we always start with what they call the karate chop on the side of your hand. So they call this the karate chop point. We always start there. And then the top of your head, I'm trying to make my screen so you can see it better. The crown of your head, your third eye, and then, yeah, I'm trying to say eyebrow. Yeah, they didn't really put it in the third eye spot. They kind of made 2 dots, but your third eye, side of the eye, under your eye, and then this little spot between your nose and your top lip, your chin, and then your collarbone. And then under your arm, about the spot where you would have a bra if you're a woman, or like right by your rib cage if you do not wear a bra. So what we're going to do is just go through the points. Are there questions before we start? Anybody? Okay. So I just want you to tap along with me, and you can repeat what I'm saying to yourself quietly. If you're doing it by yourself, I would encourage you to say it out loud, because I think your subconscious hears that. It will take it kind of to another level. But since we're in a group collectively, we'll just say it in our own head out loud.
And let me just say that when I was in India working with the monks over there, they taught us that certain things that you're actually oming or things that you're doing, and we'll get to some of that in a minute, is that you want to do it where you can hear your own voice, because it gives another level for you to experience sensory wise. And it also activates that throat chakra that we're talking about, that when that gets calmed and it's expressing in its other way, a chant or an om or different things, it may be in something like this, you're actually taking it in at a whole nother level, and you want it loud enough to hear yourself. It doesn't have to be super loud, just loud enough to hear yourself. Now, I'm not saying that's so with tapping, but it might be. But I found that was true with various things, that it actually calmed our nervous system down to hear my own voice in the midst of the processes.
Yeah, and that's true for affirmations. I think I mentioned that last time, that you can record yourself, and when you listen to your own voice, it affects your subconscious at a deeper level. So with tapping, what we're doing basically is speaking to the things that are coming up that don't feel good or that are negative beliefs, and then moving into what is affirming and what we want to change that to instead. Okay, so tapping on the side of the hand. Even though I saw a lot of fear growing up.
Even though I saw a lot of fear growing up.
I saw so much negativity, and this has affected me today.
I saw so much negativity.
I choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I choose to deeply love and accept myself.
Okay, tapping through the points. I grew up seeing so much fear.
I grew up with so much.
I saw so much negativity, so much doubt. There was no trust at all. No trust in ourselves. I learned I couldn't trust myself. I learned to be afraid.
I learned to be afraid.
Be afraid.
I learned I couldn't trust I was supported by the universe. Collarbone. Everything was met with a what if statement.
Everything.
Or the arm. What if something goes wrong? Then what am I going to do?
What am I gonna do?
I didn't see or hear anyone living from a place of trust.
I didn't hear.
Yep. No one lived from a place. Oh, I'm sorry. No one. Where I lost my place. It's here. Okay. No one lived from a place of knowing. Knowing that they were being guided. No one lived from a place of trust that they would be taken care of. And this created so much anxiety. I learned to be always in fear.
Always in fear.
Always waiting for the next thing to go wrong. It taught me that I was powerless and I couldn't do anything.
Couldn't do anything.
It taught me that I was stuck.
Stuck.
And I see now what it was.
I see now what it was.
It was just a pattern.
It was just a pattern.
It's as if it were safer to be afraid.
It's as if it was safer to be afraid.
And that makes no sense.
And that makes no sense.
And yet this is the way things work.
And yet this is the way things work.
Work.
And this is what I was taught.
This is what I've taught.
This is what I've done up until now.
This is what I've done until now.
Until now.
Let's get one thing really clear.
Let's get one thing really clear.
My thoughts and feelings do not define me.
My thoughts and feelings do not define me.
They are only visitors passing through.
They are only visitors passing through.
I will reach for thoughts that feel empowering.
I will reach for thoughts that feel empowering.
That I can do.
That I can do.
That is within my control.
That is within my control.
That makes me feel safe in the world.
That makes me feel safe in the world.
That makes me feel capable.
That makes me feel capable.
I learned so many negative lessons about how to be in the world.
I learned so many negative lessons about how to be in the world.
I learned I was a victim and powerless.
I learned I was a victim and powerless.
But this only goes as far as my thoughts.
This only goes as far as my thoughts.
I create my reality,
I create my reality.
and it doesn't have to continue.
And it doesn't have to continue.
I won't let it continue
I won't let
Let
it
it
continue.
continue.
because I am not a victim and I am not powerless.
I am not.
Powerless.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am capable.
I am capable.
I know that I am supported by the universe,
I know that I'm supported by the universe.
and there is no way God would abandon me.
And there's no way God will abandon me.
So I reach for the thoughts that are empowering.
So I reach for the thoughts that are empowering.
I deserve that, and I'm going to let my light shine so bright.
I deserve that. I will let my light shine so bright.
And when I let my light shine bright, it's coming from love.
When I let my light shine bright, it's coming from love.
I fully and completely love and accept myself.
I fully and completely love and accept myself.
Now take a deep breath and let it out slowly. So that was a long one, but they're not always that long. I wanted to give you kind of the full experience of what it can look like. There are lots of versions that are shorter. And again, tailor it to whatever it is that feels right to you. So that was just a general one about fear, because in the collective trauma, we've all kind of been in a state of fear and powerlessness. As we're coming out of some of that, it's time to empower ourselves, and we want to tap in to our knowing and tap in physically in our body that we have control over ourselves. And between that and our higher power, we are protected and we are capable and we are able to love ourselves and move forward and heal. We claim that, we affirm that for ourselves.
There's a question, a couple of them out here, so go
Sure.
ahead.
In the room?
Me?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah, could you give us a short one, maybe, and send it in email so we can see how it flows?
to send a
Sure.
short script, an email, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. All right. Now, did we have another question? No. Did you have another question? No, okay,
Can I just say something?
yeah,
What you can do, if you have your own scenario, you can go through it, write it down, write yourself a script and go through the tapping. I've done this
Okay,
and you get that effect. So she's using it general on fear, but if you have a specific thing, like I went through the trauma of a medical procedure,
Mm-hmm.
wrote a script out and did that whole thing numerous times until I felt no more emotion about it.
wow.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful, yeah.
I
And
didn't cry through the whole thing.
yes.
And I could say that, I just kept doing the tapping until I could say the script without the emotion.
Mhm.
Being audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there are, like she said, go on YouTube, you can get all kinds of scripts about any kind of thing, and you can listen to them, and then, and some of them they'll give you in writing different things, but we'll send one out. But I think that it's important that identify what it is you want to address, and you can have amazing results in doing this and getting yourself down from a different place from where you had been in your
And they
nervous
all
system.
start out with even though.
Even though I.
Even though I.
Mhm.
And they all end with, I deeply
love
love and
and
accept
accept myself.
Yes. So it's a very
Love
powerful
and accept
tool
myself.
to use. And we have people that do tapping with you and things like that as well in our congregation. We know we have people that do that as well. So, but we wanted to provide some tools for you to take back. So
I want to mention that on the YouTube scripts, it's not just words. Generally, it's somebody doing exactly what I was doing. It's someone leading you through it. So you can just watch and say, you don't have to be thinking about what to say next if you find something that works for you. But your example of how you created that for yourself is exactly what we're going for. And that's what we do one-on-one in therapy, would be to speak to whatever it is that your particular wound or trauma or what is upsetting you.
yeah, and we wanted to do another piece before we close, because we're getting close, and we want to make sure and ask some questions if there are any questions. But there are a couple things that are pretty simple ways to, again, kind of move through. And you want to explain the term somatic movement, Amber?
Sure, it's just being in your body, feeling into whatever it is that your body wants to tell you. So you might feel that your body has a lot of pent up energy and you just want to move your arms, or you might want to lay on the ground and let your limbs do whatever it is that they want to do. You might lean into a pit in your stomach and just start sobbing uncontrollably, and that's okay. You want to let that movement happen, let that emotion come out, because what you're doing is shifting energy, moving and releasing old energy. Remember, emotion stands for energy and motion. So we're just using our physical body that stores energy and stores physical memory as well, muscle memory, we're just feeling into that, and however it is that it wants to move and release. And so that can look very different depending on the person and the situation, but we just listed a few things that anybody can do. And full body shaking is one of my favorites for quickly moving. Yeah, you can set a timer on your phone or on the microwave or something, and you just shake your entire body. And if you could see my whole body, I would do the whole thing, but you just want to shake your entire body for that minute, and it's going to help kind of reset your nervous system. Was there a question, Kira?
Oh, no, I was going to say that I think the birds in my backyard do this. They get those up the hot water and stuff, and then they shake it off. But I think that anytime sometimes when we're in the midst of something, it can shift our ability to handle those things and move us again from that freeze place, because we're moving the energy in that moment. And so it can really help shift things. And sometimes, I think I said last week about how I'll teach people to do the squats with the letting out. And again, that's that guttural sound. It's also movement. When we combine movement and sound, you can do just movement, or you can combine movement and sound. You're going to shift the energy in your physical body at that point, and you're opening up through breathing when you're doing something like that too, because you're going to breathe differently when you're doing that, right? So all of that kind of combines these things that we're talking about as well. And one that is very powerful is oming. And we are omers in this crowd. And so I thought maybe we should just take a moment and just do a couple of ohms and move ourselves, move that energy for ourselves, because to recognize how powerful it is and how it expands your lungs and opens you and puts both the sounds and the vibration through your body as a result.
Can we stand?
Yeah, why don't you want to stand? Go do whatever you feel comfortable for you. We can do either one. So let's just take in a breath and Oh. There was yodeling going on too. Yeah, maybe yodeling helps too. I don't know if that makes sense. Yodeling. Yeah. I would think that singing,
I've only just
you
done
know,
it by myself, you know.
Oh,
I had like this many.
you've not done it without, oh yeah, the vibration is amazing.
Yeah.
when you-
Yeah.
Oh, to
Yeah,
feel
that was
that,
cool.
yeah.
That's
Do
cool.
just one.
and-
You can't do just one.
And you can't do just one. You kind of, usually you do them in threes,
Right.
you know, is what you usually do. Okay, so we'll do one more so everybody feels complete. Okay, one more.
Okay, let's go ahead and do one.
Oh. It's powerful, and you do different tones and different things, but you wanted to just, these are simple things. Laughing, you know, you can force yourself to laugh sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
If you just try. I would say people with nothing else, they start laughing at me. So, you know, there's laughing yoga because it literally
Yes.
moves. And it's another way to work with again, removing the energy that was stuck in these traumatic patterns. So, and then of course, dancing is always put on some music and dance. It's another way you can shift and move the energy. Now, we're at 1 minute before we're supposed to be done. And so, or something like that, 2 minutes. I wanted to kind of ask if there are questions that you have for Amber before we complete. This has been a lot of material, but hopefully also some ways to go back and work with yourself. And we do also know that, you know, working with somebody that has an understanding of trauma is a great help, you know, using a counselor and finding others, but also finding ways that you can find yourself in the moment, a new way of expressing. Another one that you can do, I just thought of real quick, is where you tighten up all your muscles at once. Everything gets tight, and then let it go, right? It's another quick and easy response thing, right?
Was she gonna talk about the eye movement for?
EMDR? You want to talk about EMDR? Eugenia in here does EMDR also.
Oh, yay. And you know, I did a video with Ryan on that's on the Unity Bay YouTube channel also. EMDR is using your eye movement to de-escalate emotions in the way that they're stored around a traumatic event. So it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And essentially what you're doing is mimicking the rapid eye movement phase of sleep. And one of the things I love about EMDR research is that they don't fully understand sleep. We as humans don't fully understand all of the aspects of sleep, but we can see in PET scans and MRIs and things that when we go into rapid eye movement phase of sleep, more parts of the brain, and specifically the parts that we talked about on the day one, are talking to each other. More pieces are lighting up rather than prior to using eye movement. It's only lighting up in the amygdala, only in the sensory perception area. So everything comes into your brain as sensory perception first, and generally then parts of your brain communicate with each other to add in time and space, to add in logic and reasoning, to say this happened then and not now. But when your nervous system goes into overload and therefore experiences a trauma, because remember, it's anything your nervous system can't handle, it gets stored incorrectly. And the theory is that it's stored around the sensory perception at the time, which is why you know, if someone got into a car accident and there was a certain song playing on the radio, every time they hear that song, they might start getting anxious. Or if you had a miscarriage and lost a baby, and then you have your period the next month and have cramps and immediately start having a panic attack because you're losing the baby. Logically, you know, that is not the case, but your body is saying, it's setting off that smoke alarm and saying that something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong. And so we're using the eye movement in order to get those parts talking to each other, which de-escalates, or we can help kind of grow up a memory if maybe it happened when you were younger. So getting those parts of the brain to talk to each other allows us to say, remember, that was when we were 10 and we're 40 now, or we're 60 now, or whatever it is. And it's super interesting because people's images in their mind will often shrink. Things will get smaller because when you're little, everything's huge. And as an adult, your perspective is different. Maybe the distance from where they were trying to go to the door or something gets shorter. So it's not meant to erase or get rid of memories. What we're trying to do is de-escalate the emotion so that it's just a story. It's just part of your personal narrative.
I was gonna say, go ahead, finish up.
Oh, I just wanted to say really quick, because I think I forgot last time, that anybody's welcome to email me if you would like, and that is in the information. Generally, I get email pretty quickly, so maybe let me know that you're from the class, so I don't think that you're requesting an appointment. But yeah, I'm happy to, if we're out of time and you have other questions, I'm happy to answer that. There's also information about EMDR on my website, which is the slide that Kira has up now. There are circles, couples, individual. EMDR is its own circle, and I have links to EMDRIA, which is the International Association, EMDR.com, I think. There are some links that have videos and some of that, if you want to learn more.
Excellent. And I think that, you know, what we want you to know, there are many other techniques for healing trauma that we haven't, discussed yet. But these were some key things to help understand what are things that you can put into effect immediately into your life. You know, there's a neurolinguistic programming, there's working with imagery that way. There's a lot of different things that you can do. But these are things that you can start a process of coming to a realization of something greater moving you, and take some charge of your own trauma, and reach out to those that can help you, you know, along the way, because there are great counselors around that work with this, you know, and or work with any kind of trauma. But we also want you empowered to understand it so you don't feel helpless in the face of it. And I think that's a great piece of empowerment that we sought from this time together for everybody. And so I just want to say a special thank you to Amber for doing such a very
Thank you.
Didn't do personal questions. Is anybody concerned about us posting what we did tonight after the class? I just heard from Amy saying I'm okay with this. Others are okay with it that I've heard from on here. All right, because we didn't really get into personal trauma stories at this point. All right, then we will try to make it into a YouTube so everybody has access to it again and can get the information, that if you're okay with that. If you're not, please email me, because we won't get it done that fast anyway. So I'm not that quick. It'll be out next year. It should be that resolved. So anyway, any final questions, and then we're going to close up. Thank you. Yeah.
I have just a general question, and using the car accident as an example, that there are triggers that bring on the past trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so the example of the car and the radio comes on, and so that triggers from the accident. And my question is, if you have several traumas that are in your system, does that song just trigger from that accident? Or do other traumas, because you're in that part of the system, do other traumas, can other traumas can be triggered from one particular incident, I guess I'm saying?
Yes, because since it's sensory based,
Yeah, it's almost done.
your body stores that in a way that anything that resembles that incident can kind of take you back to that moment. But one of the things that's great about EMDR is that you're kind of peeling back those layers. And so each session, what we used to do is have people watch our hands, and we did this. And we're trying to get your eyes to go as far in the periphery as possible without moving your head. But now there are light bars. And so you hold tappers that vibrate in correlation with each side of the light. That has to do with bilateral brain stimulation. So each time that you do an EMDR session like that, you might be peeling back, this particular trauma, and maybe other things kind of come to the surface, but then you can process through that. So yes, that's a good question. And it is, the answer is different for everyone because everyone stores information differently. And I think last time we touched a little bit on, whether or not it affects you personally as much as it affects someone else. And if you've experienced a lot of traumas in your life, then you might have what we call complex PTSD. But all of those things are things that trained therapists know all about and can help you work through. And one of the main reasons for doing this class is to just educate you so you don't panic or don't worry. If maybe one thing brings up something else, that's okay. Let it be okay. And remind yourself that your body's just trying to keep you safe.
And I wanted to bring in both Amber and her expertise as well as then calling on the divine part. So I don't.
We've got another hand, Kira.
Okay, we're way over time, so I want to.
I'm not going to ask. Oh, I wasn't going to ask a question. I was just in closing. Wanted to say thank you to all of you, and I really appreciate all that y'all have done with these classes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. And I will say that if you would like to donate to the class, you can donate here tonight. You can donate online at Unity Bay Area Houston under donate under the second level of donations. It has a thing for healing our trauma. And we want to let's just say thank you to Amber because she did an amazing job.
Hey, Amber, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
You got the makeup down. Covers the spots.
Good job. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Y'all have a good night. See you Sunday.